Hello, this is the second of the short stories in the sequence, and the description will be below, and the 5 words which have inspired the story are here. And this is very different from yesterday's story, and it's called In Too Deep. The noise that told Jennifer Albright that she might die down here, 30 feet under the Sea of Marmara, was the sound of the winch unwinding, as if it could no longer be held in tension, as if there was no longer anyone there to hold it. The cage was 6 feet square, made of rigid steel struts welded securely together. On its floor and ceiling was an additional layer of strong wire mesh. There were 4 flotation devices on the roof, which could be inflated remotely if the winch failed. The bars were 9 inches apart, too small for the intrusion of a tiger or bull or hammerhead, or indeed any of the 43 other species of shark to be found in the Mediterranean. Large enough for Jennifer's camera lens, however. Large enough for her hand, if she was brave or stupid enough to risk contact. Just 24 years old, Jennifer was an inveterate thrill seeker. She had bungee jumped off a viaduct in Italy, skied black runs in Austria, and cracked a bullwhip at a lion in an unrepentant animal circus in Romania. These activities were indulged by her father, who had won a local lottery and retired to a vineyard in the Yarra Valley. His millions had meant that his 2 children, Jennifer and Roger, could travel the world, indulging adventurous whims. The siblings were inseparable on their adventures, so much so that people often assumed they were a couple, a source of constant embarrassment. Roger, unfortunately, had eaten some bad seafood the previous evening and had been up all night throwing up. He'd had to cry off today's swimming with sharks extravaganza so that he could recover in bed and FaceTime his boyfriend Bruno back in Sydney. Roger had bribed the ship's captain Hackey to make Jennifer's special birthday experience a private one, just Hackey and them. Usually, Jennifer wouldn't have been allowed in the cage alone, but Roger had offered the captain a supplement of 2,000 lira, and Hackey had 5 children to feed. As she gulped oxygen through her aqualung, holding her underwater camera at the ready, Jennifer was momentarily startled by a blush of red amidst the blue. Hackey must have thrown in a handful of chum to attract the sharks. He had boasted that a great white shark could dismember a man or a woman with a single bite. Like you with a stick of celery, he'd added unnecessarily. In the first 20 minutes, Jennifer had photographed a feeding frenzy of fearsome-looking fish, including a half-dozen blue sharks, a comical-looking hammerhead, and a tiger shark. Only the latter had paid her any attention at all, primarily because the others had devoured all the chum. The tiger had flickered swiftly into the periphery of her vision, then swum underneath to rise before her like an apparition. Despite her bravery, Jennifer backed away, as the shark nosed between the bars, as if smelling her. Jennifer wondered if the shark could tell she had finished her period yesterday. 5 minutes of the allotted time remained, and Jennifer had seen nothing since the tiger shark, apart from a glittering shoals of fish. Then, something slid sinisterly out of the murk directly ahead of her. Jennifer's heart throbbed. It wasn't the familiar white underbelly, or the immense size of the thing, 6 meters from snout to tail, that told her the shark was a great white. It was its grimace and the calm, cold appraisal in its eyes. The creature in front of her wanted nothing more than to chew her into pieces and devour her. Jennifer was too terrified to move, having lost all desire to touch the monster, even when it turned tail and swam quickly away. The encounter lasted less than a minute, but Jennifer had its deathly visage imprinted on her mind. Those teeth, so many of them, the morsels of torn up flesh between them. The great white was a messy eater. The time came for Jennifer to be hoisted to the surface, and she felt the winch engage with relief. When the cage stopped moments later, 10 feet from the surface, her relief dissolved. Fearfully, she jerked on the safety line, twice as she'd been instructed. Nothing. What was Hackey up to? She guessed the winch was stuck. Why hadn't he inflated the emergency floats? She laid the camera down and tried the safety line again. 10 minutes later, with her oxygen indicator in the red, the truth dawned. Something had happened to Hackey. She'd have to free herself. A shadow passed overhead. A barracuda, thankfully. Jennifer remembered what Hackey had told her about the explosive bolts that would jettison the roof. She had to twist the lever to vertical and push the red button and stand back. Jennifer did a 360, saw nothing. She crouched at the base of the cage, hand on the button. Only then did she remember to look down. There was the great white, waiting. The top of the cage blasted free and the base dropped, causing the shark to duck out of the way. Fighting impossibly slowly through currents like treacle, Jennifer kicked out. She couldn't see the shark, only the sunlight sparkling down from overhead as she kicked hard. Jennifer broke the surface of the water, a shadow circling beneath her as the adrenaline dragged her up the ladder, still wearing the heavy oxygen tanks. She flopped gratefully onto the deck, sobbing with relief. Inches away was the suntanned body of Hackey, sprawled onto the floor. She checked his pulse, found it entirely absent, and raced into the cabin to locate the radio. 2 hours later, she was rescued by the local lifeguard, checked over at hospital and released in a taxi. Jennifer staggered into the twin room, where Roger was snoring loudly. Outside, a glorious sunset blossomed over the Bosphorus. All Jennifer, retired adrenalin junkie, would see in her dreams that night were those endless rows of teeth, those implacable eyes, and that terrible smile. And thanks for listening.